The story begins in the Oklahoma Territory in 1906, where a badly injured man is running through dense woods, desperately trying to escape 3 armed pursuers. The men, as the wounded man fires blindly behind him, none of his shots land. The pursuit soon moves into an open field, where Ketchum calmly raises his rifle and shoots the man in the leg, bringing him down. Surrounded and helpless, the injured man is interrogated about his partner, Curry. When he refuses to give any information, Ketchum brutally crushes his wounded leg until the pain becomes unbearable. A rope is then tied around the man's neck and attached to a horse, dragging him across the ground until he finally breaks and reveals that Curry is heading east toward Indian territory and is badly wounded. Despite this, Ketchum shows no mercy and tightens the rope, killing the man. His body is left hanging from a tree as the group rides off to hunt down Curry. Elsewhere in the territory, an elderly farmer named Henry McCarty is working his land alongside his teenage son, Wyatt, and his brother-in-law, Al. The work is hard and slow, and Henry pushes Wyatt to stay focused, while Wyatt questions the exhausting lifestyle.
There's tractors can do this now in quarter the time.
Is that right?
This would be a good place for you to raise a family of your own. I know your ma would have felt that way.
I ain't her or him.
By wisdom is a house built. Through knowledge are its rooms filled with rare and beautiful treasures.
Al later heads out for bird hunting, offering Wyatt a brief sense of freedom as he reminds him that one day he will be able to make his own choices. Later that day, Henry and Wyatt slaughter a pig for food. As Wyatt watches the other pigs feed on the remains, he questions the harsh reality of survival and begins to openly doubt whether this isolated life is truly what his father wanted. While chopping wood, Wyatt asks why Henry chose such a remote place to live and whether he is genuinely content with a life. Henry insists that the land was a good opportunity and that there are far worse ways to live. Their conversation is interrupted when they notice a riderless horse wandering nearby. Upon closer inspection, they see that the saddle is soaked in blood, suggesting the rider was either robbed, seriously injured, or killed. Henry decides to track the rider, but refuses to let Wyatt come along, ordering him to stay behind and care for the horse. Riding alone, Henry follows the trail until he finds an unconscious man lying on the ground with a gunshot wound to the chest. Acting quickly, Henry covers the wound with mud and cloth to slow the bleeding. Searching the area, he discovers the man's gun and a satchel filled with cash. Realizing the danger such money could bring, Henry initially chooses to walk away and leave everything behind. However, guilt and conscience get the better of him. He turns back, loads the wounded man onto his horse, carefully hides the trail, and takes both the gun and the money before returning home. With Wyatt's help, Henry brings the injured stranger inside and lays him on the bed. The man has lost a significant amount of blood, and with night approaching, reaching a doctor in time seems impossible. Although Wyatt offers to ride through the night for help, Henry decides they must do what they can themselves. Despite Wyatt's suspicion that the stranger might be an outlaw, Henry insists they know nothing about the man and should not judge him. Later, Henry secretly retrieves the satchel of cash, carefully checking the surroundings before hiding both the money and the gun in a concealed compartment in his bedroom closet. Unaware that Wyatt is quietly watching from outside the room, Henry believes his actions have gone unnoticed. The next morning, determined to save the wounded man, Henry prepares to ride out in search of a doctor so the bullet lodged in the man's chest can finally be removed. Before leaving the house, Henry tightly ties the wounded man's hands to the bed and instructs Wyatt to keep a close watch on him.
It ain't not necessary.
But Henry refuses to take any chances, then prepares his horse and rides out, warning Wyatt to stay well away from the stranger, even while he is restrained. A few miles away, Ketchum and his men arrive at the spot where Curry collapsed. At first, it appears the trail has gone completely cold. However, Stilwell carefully examines the ground and notices faint signs that someone deliberately erased the tracks. He quickly realizes that Curry did not escape on his own. Back at the farmhouse, Wyatt follows his father's instructions and tends to Curry. As he places a damp cloth on the man's head, he notices that Curry's breathing begins to steady. Curiosity soon takes over, and Wyatt sneaks into his father's room, opening the hidden compartment in the closet. Inside, he discovers a satchel full of cash and Curry's gun. Having never been allowed to handle a firearm, Wyatt takes the gun outside and secretly practices shooting, firing several shots before finally hitting his target. The sound of gunfire stirs Curry from his unconscious state, pulling him into a feverish memory from his childhood filled with violence and fear. Unaware of this, Wyatt quickly returns the gun to its hiding place. While doing so, he notices a small box tucked deeper inside the compartment. Opening it, he finds additional weapons, ammunition, and newspaper clippings about the legendary outlaw Billy the Kid. The discovery shocks him. Meanwhile, Henry spots Ketchum and his men investigating the exact area where he rescued Curry. Acting quickly, Henry hides his horse and crawls through the tall grass to observe them. He overhears Stilwell explaining that Curry had help and that the person who assisted him covered the trail so cleanly it nearly fooled
Cover his tracks as good as anyone I've run across.
an experienced tracker. When a sudden noise gives Henry away, gunshots ring out, but he narrowly escapes and rides hard back toward home. At the house, Wyatt checks on Curry and realizes that one of the ropes has come loose. Before he can react, Curry attacks him, demanding answers about the missing money and gun. Wyatt tries to explain that his father saved him, but when he lies about Henry's whereabouts, Curry immediately senses the deception. He overpowers Wyatt and threatens his life. At the last moment, Henry storms in and brutally subdues Curry, beating him unconscious. Although ready to kill the man, Henry stops when Wyatt pleads with him. They restrain Curry once again, tying him to a chair, and as Curry begins to wake, Henry heats a knife, making it clear that he is prepared to do whatever it takes to protect his family.
Gonna dig that bullet out of you, maybe get some answers in the process. I like what I hear. I might be inclined to give you something to ease the pain.
Curry asks Henry what he intends to do next, and Henry calmly prepares to remove the bullet lodged in his chest, hoping it might also force some answers out of him. As Henry presses the heated blade into the wound, Curry screams in pain and finally breaks, revealing that he is actually a lawman. When the subject of the stolen money comes up, Henry becomes suspicious of how his son even knows about it, as extremely dangerous men are closing in. After successfully removing the bullet, moments later, Wyatt hears approaching riders and alerts his father. Panic sets in as Curry begs to be untied. Henry retrieves Curry's gun from the hidden compartment and notices that it is still warm, a sign it was recently fired. Ignoring the warning, he loads the weapon and steps outside to face the approaching men. Outside, Ketchum presents himself as a sheriff, claiming that he and his companions are deputies hunting a dangerous fugitive named Curry. Henry grows suspicious as he recognizes most lawmen in the region and doesn't recall ever seeing Ketchum. As the conversation continues, Ketchum casually probes Henry's personal life, asking about the people living on the property, the grave nearby, and even Henry's family history. He mentions Henry's deceased wife and her relatives, then brings up another man with the same last name who was once a fugitive in New Mexico. Henry firmly denies any connection and insists he hasn't seen the man they're looking for. Eventually, Ketchum decides not to push further and orders his men to leave. Once the riders are gone, Henry confronts Wyatt about secretly firing the gun.
I am the only boy for 50 miles that's never fired one.
You get into my things again, I will crack your crust!
You're a stupid, worthless old man. A whole life and nothing to show for it but this rundown old farm, and a boy's gonna leave you alone to die as soon as he's able.
Leaving Henry alone with his thoughts. Henry then returns to Curry and demands the full truth. Elsewhere, Ketchum and his men set up camp. They question why a simple farmer would risk his life to help a wounded stranger. Growing impatient and suspicious, they begin considering returning to the farmhouse and eliminating everyone inside.
Any one of us could have taken him out, which is what we should do now.
One of the men suggests killing Henry immediately, believing it would solve the problem. However, Ketchum shuts the idea down. He makes it clear that Henry is not just a harmless old farmer, noting the way he handled a gun with confidence and control. Ketchum insists they need to fully understand who they are dealing with before making a move.
Don't make a move till we get there.
Fine.
Dugan.
I said fine.
Instead, he orders Dugan to quietly return to the farmhouse and keep watch, ensuring Curry doesn't escape, while he and Stilwell ride to the nearest town to recruit more gunmen. On the way, they plan to visit Al, Henry's brother-in-law, hoping to learn more about Henry's past. Dugan secretly positions himself in the woods near the farmhouse. Inside, Henry brings Curry a bowl of soup. Curry begins opening up, explaining that he has served as a sheriff for many years and mentions people and places connected to Baxter Springs, Kansas. Henry recognizes all of them from his own days traveling the frontier. Curry also apologizes for attacking Wyatt earlier, saying the boy didn't truly mean the angry words he said. Henry disagrees.
I overheard what he said earlier. He didn't mean any of that.
Yes, he did.
But the tension between them slowly softens. As trust builds, Henry loosens one of Curry's restraints so he can eat and deliberately leaves his gun on the table as a test. Curry notices the weapon but doesn't reach for it. He then shares a powerful memory from his youth, revealing that he witnessed the night Billy the Kid was killed in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. Curry recalls seeing Billy moments before his death and watching as his body was carried away, a moment that has haunted him ever since. Hearing this, Henry finally believes him. He fully unties Curry.
He said, Keep your head down. You'll be all
returns
right.
his gun, and tells him he must leave soon. Henry promises to recover the stolen money himself. Before they can act, gunfire suddenly tears through the house. Bullets rip into the walls, forcing Henry and Curry to take cover. Curry manages to fire back, but chaos erupts when Wyatt runs into the room and is shot in the arm. Though badly shaken, Wyatt insists he's not seriously hurt. Curry collapses unconscious from his injuries, leaving Henry to handle the situation alone. Soon, Henry realizes the shooter is hiding beneath the house. It's Dugan, waiting silently for the right moment to strike again. Henry hands the gun to Wyatt and tells him to shoot if Dugan comes inside. Using a distraction, Henry slips outside with his shotgun and fires beneath the house, forcing Dugan to flee. Henry shoots him down and confronts him, demanding to know where the others are. When Dugan refuses to talk, Henry kills him, fully aware that the man intended to murder his family. Afterward, Henry explains to Wyatt that he had no choice.
I saw.
Probably here to watch and got greedy. The others will be coming.
And that the remaining men will return. To dispose of the body, Henry drags Dugan to the pig pen. Before doing so, he notices a burned gang mark on Dugan's wrist.
Is feed them to pigs. You've got to starve the pigs for a few days. They will go through bone like butter. So be wary of any man who keeps a pig farm.
Confirming the danger they're facing. Back inside the house, Henry tends to Wyatt's wound and is relieved to discover the bullet only grazed his arm. Still, it's clear that the violence has permanently changed both of them, and the threat is far from over. As Henry cleans and bandages Wyatt's injured arm, Wyatt brings up the newspaper clippings he once saw hidden in his father's closet. Articles about a notorious outlaw. Henry avoids the subject, insisting that he has already told Wyatt. Meanwhile, Henry checks on Curry, who remains unconscious, drifting through a haunting dream of the night Billy the Kid was killed.
Keep your head down.
The next morning, Al is out bird hunting near his own place. Ketchum and Stilwell suddenly arrive. What begins as casual conversation quickly turns tense. Ketchum makes it clear that he's interested in Henry, convinced there's far more to the old farmer than he appears. When Al demands they leave, the situation turns violent. Ketchum attacks him, and Stilwell knocks him unconscious, taking him captive. Back at the farmhouse, Curry finally regains consciousness. Weak and barely able to move, he urges Henry to take Wyatt and leave immediately, offering to stay behind and face Ketchum alone. Wyatt, fueled by anger and fear, wants to fight, believing they can defend themselves. Henry, however, agrees with Curry and begins packing to flee. Before they can finish, Curry spots armed men approaching the house. Henry orders Wyatt to leave everything behind and go at once. Wyatt refuses to abandon Curry, but Henry insists he won't risk losing his son for someone else's battle. As they step outside, they realize escape is no longer possible. More armed riders appear. Ketchum has returned with reinforcements. Forced back inside, they prepare for the inevitable. Ketchum announces that he's there for Curry and offers Henry a cruel choice: surrender Curry and walk away with his son, or resist and die together.
You and I both know we'll be dead before we mount our horses.
Curry urges Henry to take the deal, but Wyatt sees through the lie, knowing they won't be spared. Henry attempts to settle the matter by challenging Ketchum directly, but Ketchum mocks the idea and orders his men to bring out Al. Al is dragged forward, beaten, bloodied, and tied, making the stakes painfully clear. Henry arms himself and hands Wyatt a gun, ordering him to stay inside, away from the windows, and shoot anyone who enters. Henry then steps outside alone to face Ketchum and his men. Ketchum admits that Henry's name sounded familiar, which is why he targeted Al, hoping to uncover Henry's past. He reveals that even torture couldn't force Al to speak. Ketchum makes one final offer: Curry and the money in exchange for Al's life. Henry counters with his own terms: release Al, leave the property, and survive. The offer is met with laughter. When Ketchum asks Al if he has anything to add, Al's defiance makes it clear that whatever storm is coming,
You have no idea the hailstorm you fixing to let loose.
Consider me properly warned.
As Stilwell raises his gun at Al, Henry reacts instantly, raising his shotgun and forcing the rest of the gang to aim at him. Ketchum orders them to stand down, seemingly calm, and admires a wooden bird Henry had carved earlier. Then, without warning, Ketchum pulls his gun and shoots Al in the head, killing him instantly. Wyatt snaps in shock and bursts outside, opening fire. Henry follows, and the two retreat back into the house as bullets tear through the walls. During the chaos, Curry is struck in the leg, adding to the tension. Ketchum calls a ceasefire, acknowledging that the confrontation has escalated beyond his control.
Cross paths with you. Things didn't go his way. Seeing as how I just killed your man Al here.
Inside, Henry scolds Wyatt for almost getting them all killed.
Keep your damn head down. You'll be all right.
and instructs him to stay low, uttering words that suddenly trigger a profound realization in Curry. The phrase echoes a memory from his youth, the exact words Billy the Kid once told him. The revelation is cut short as Henry steps outside with his hands raised, drawing Stilwell's attention. But in a sudden, deadly move, Henry shoots Ketchum in the neck, igniting a brutal shootout. Henry moves with lethal precision, taking down several men before crashing back through a window into the house to reload. He warns Wyatt not to follow and slips out the back with a knife. Outside, Henry grabs an axe, killing another attacker, disarms and stabs a second, and shoots a third man, peeking from under the house. With only Stilwell left, Henry corners him. Stilwell pleads for his life, but secretly attempts to throw a knife. Henry reacts instantly, shooting it out of his hand and killing him with a precise shot to the eye. For a moment, the fight seems over, but a wounded Ketchum fires from the trees. Henry takes cover, reloads, and exchanges gunfire with him through the forest. Despite being shot in both shoulders, Henry's skill and determination allow him to shoot Ketchum in the leg, then, moving closer, deliver a final shot to the chest, ending the deadly confrontation. With Ketchum out of bullets, Henry steps forward and ends the fight with a single, precise shot to the head. He makes his way back to the house, and Wyatt runs toward him, relieved to see his father alive. Inside, they help Curry onto a chair, and Henry sends Wyatt to fetch water and rags to tend Curry's wounded leg. Once Wyatt leaves, Curry admits that Henry had seemed familiar all along. As Henry binds Curry's leg, he accidentally reveals a branded gang mark on his arm, the same mark he had seen earlier on Dugan. Curry realizes the truth and shoots Henry. Henry collapses, clutching the wound. Curry confesses that he and his deputies had been lawmen, but had joined Ketchum's gang for money. They tried to betray Ketchum after discovering he planned to kill them, but it went wrong, leaving Curry as the sole survivor. Now, aiming at Henry, he gloats that he finally has the chance to kill Billy the Kid. Wyatt rushes back into the room and fires the shotgun, killing Curry instantly. Panicked, he drops beside his father, ready to fetch a doctor, but Henry, knowing he is dying, gently stops him. He shares his final words, telling Wyatt that people will say many things about him, some true and some not. But what matters is the life he lived and the son he raised. He urges Wyatt to go into the world, live fully, and experience everything it has to offer. With that, Henry McCarty takes his final breath. Later, Wyatt buries his father beside his mother and rides north with the stolen money and his belongings, finally leaving home to explore the world as he always dreamed.